To call the meeting to order, if you can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Rachel, can you call roll, please? Here.
Rick,
Here. Thank you so much. Council, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? Oh,
I'll take it.
we're fighting already. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Agenda is approved. I'd like to move on to public comments. And for public comments, we encourage all of those speaking to come to the podium and speak into the microphone since we are transmitting via Zoom. Complete your comments within 3 minutes, stay on topic, present your comments in a spirit of cooperation and collaboration, and be respectful to the institution of Borough Council and the public. And just to a little clarification, because we did get a number of emails from around Southern Chester County today in support of one of the agenda items, but just a clarification that public comment is a time for borough residents, borough taxpayers, or designated representatives for organizations in the borough. Thank you.
John Thomas. I have two small comments. One, I'm very disappointed in Borough Council. After the last special meeting, I offered anybody wanted to talk to me about what happened at the zoning hearing board, find out what happened, to contact me. Not one of you did. I was willing to tell you what happened and what you should do about it. The other thing is I hear that Carrie's leaving. I'm very disappointed in that. I think she's very good. I think if we offer her a full-time job and some respect, she would probably stay. Maybe not, but she might. I think she's very good and very attentive. And you can have a debate with her and she will debate you and give you facts and figures, and she learns and I learn, and you know, I enjoy talking to her because she's very good at her job. So I'm very disappointed in that. So
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Good evening. Margaret Opplinger, 251 North Broad Street. I'm opposed to the 0.2 mil increase for the borough referendum. I don't want that on the borough, on the ballot. I think it's ridiculous. You raised our taxes 53% or whatever it was, and now the library wants more money because they're not working within their means. I think that they really need to figure out more fundraising, or they need to not have so many people working there. I don't know. They're like a business. I also have a problem with them doing it on our assessed value, considering our properties haven't been reassessed in a long time. And I can see that that could be something in the future. And so they're 47 cents on 122,000, whatever, is unrealistic. Because if we all get reassessed, we know that those amounts are going to skyrocket. So I think it's pretty tough for people on fixed incomes, and a lot of them in our borough are seniors. I think that it's a little unfair for them to ask for this money, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Opplinger.
Charlotte Watson, 523 Magnolia Street in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. 12.5 is the bond that's floated for this building. 12.5. The library, last time they were talking here was 19,000. They said they wanted 19 million, and they wanted 4 more. We're qualming about paying the commission $1 million. That's not even on target yet. I think we spent 400 and some thousand right now, don't we, for the commission? So we're not even at 1 million. So I saw it premature to bring that vote the other night, especially with 2 councilmen meeting at the most important time in their life. With all the debt we've incurred, all the bonds we already had floating, because we didn't do any consolidations. And then you're going to qualm about paying the commission $1 million in 2 years. It's not this year, so I think your vote was premature, and I think it was personal. It had to be personal. If you're only spending 400 and some this year, and you're going to give them notice because it's 6 months' notice, you don't even have enough time to assess what it is to operate a FAR/ambulance. You don't have enough time to have all the experts in, and we're not going to pay no more people for you to hire and bring in duds into Kennett Square, because everybody you've hired has brought in duds here. It's a washout. It's proven. It's a given. And then let's get to the pool. You could spend 12.5 on an unfinished building, and you never even showed or present anything to us, and we don't even have a spec for what the design is. And then we have the Y telling us they want to have they want to have summer programs down there. They don't want to operate a pool. Get them out of there. That pool's a community asset. It was when it started, and it was a combination of bringing race relations together here. And what I see you people doing is destroying every darn thing Kennett has stood for. I show you building a white utopia that doesn't even include white people who don't fall into the right income levels. So I see you as being totally biased and prejudiced. I want to read to you what MLK said, since you know so much about MLK, all of you. And I don't think anybody knows anything about it. All of you had that big banquet where people look segregated within it. I never went, but everybody came back, told me it looked segregated at the breakfast. And I don't come for 1 day a year. You got to treat me good 365 days a year. And if you don't, I'm going to take it from you. You're going to learn to treat me good. The bottom line is MLK said to Harry Belafonte. Harry Belafonte said MLK was looking mighty puzzled and upset. And they had just won a decision that was going to bring race relations into this century. And he said to him, "What's disturbing you?" He said, "I've come upon something that disturbs me deeply. We have fought hard and long for integration, as I believe we should have, and I know we will win. But I have come to believe that we are integrating into a burning house." That's what all of you represent here, a burning house. You don't think separately, you don't think objectively, and you're not a forward thinker. So I think you better join the program and get with it, because Kennett's not going to stand down while you do everything. And some of you missed the other day by NVF. 800 people did not say NVF wanted to be developed. Get that false narrative off the internet. I don't care how many experts you call in and you speak to them from the table saying, "You're going to give us those reports, right?" The only report Kennett Square is going to accept is from the EPA of Pennsylvania in the United States of America, where they have said on the website that concrete block that's left there is totally absorbed with that hazardous material, and you're not going to expose us to it. And don't do any more biased decision making and say, "We're going to put affordable housing or attainable housing." Put your mothers and fathers there. Don't put anybody else there. And we don't need 400 people down there. We don't even have accesses, anything. You don't even have emergency services that can handle that because you're packing them in so tight. You're going to risk the lives of our first responders, whether the police or whether they're fire department. You deserve everything you get and I give you. So don't think it's rude, because you got a knife stabbing in Kennett Square's back and it's coming at the front of our chest.
Thank you, Ms. Watson.
Tony?
Hi, Sandy D'Antonio, 220 North Broad Street. I just have a question. I think it's great that there would be a junior council member that's interested in today's world. However, my question is, I read that there wouldn't be a voting privilege during executive meetings, but how about a night like this evening? No voting.
No,
at all?
There's no voting privileges.
Okay, so that was my question, and maybe I just didn't see that. That's number one. And the other thing is, has there been an update on the why? My last understanding was it's still $10 a person and only on weekends. So I thought there was going to be a discussion after the meeting last month. Is there any updates on that?
I've had individual conversations, but it's been with some of the stakeholders and some of the individual parties,
Okay.
but more to follow.
Well, I do want to say, I know someone who has worked at the Y for 25 years part-time.
Mhm.
They keep their hours down so they don't have to pay benefits. And that person is making the same amount as someone that is just starting and has gotten Employee of the Month several times. So when they use salary as ammunition, I personally think that's not necessarily true. And then I must say, I agree with Margaret about the increase for the library. I think the library is an asset to the community, but I don't think we should be funding their new building in our taxes. Thank you.
Ms. D'Antonio. Any other public comment? There being none, we'll move on to the next item. And as you know, typically Monday night is a work session and there's no action taken. But tonight we are going to start off with an action item for council, and that is to consider the approval of a junior council member. And for those of you who are not familiar with the junior council program, we haven't had one since, I believe, 2015. That was the last time. So I was absolutely thrilled that we've had interest. I know that this council last year adopted a resolution establishing some guidelines and a process to participate in the program. And we've been lucky enough to have a young gentleman express his interest, Juan Tafoya, who's here tonight. So council, I would like at this time to entertain a motion. And because the resolution that we passed last year established a 6-month term as well as a summer term, what I would entertain as a motion to approve a term from July 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2023, and September 1, 2023 through March 31. I just wanted to make sure I had 30 or 31 days, 2024. So basically those two terms.
President, I'd be happy to make a motion to select Juan Luis Garcia Tafola to be our junior council member beginning this evening, running through March 31st, 2024. He represents a fine young man. We had numerous recommendation letters, including from our local senator, teachers, friends, organizations, CACs. You have quite a young man growing there. Thank you very much.
Is there a second?
I'd like to second that.
Excellent. Any council discussion? Mr. Norris summed it up quite well. It's funny, sometimes when we have agenda items and we look out in the audience, we can see the individuals and we know exactly why they're here and what to speak about. And the one night I looked up and I saw one and I was wondering, and I asked the mayor, I said, because we always try to see who's out there. And he's like, I'm not sure who that is. And I said, I don't either. And at the end of the meeting, he hadn't said anything about any of the agenda items. And I was like, oh, he was just interested in borough government. And he walked up, introduced himself, and that's exactly what he said. I'm interested in borough government, getting involved in the community, political science major to be, and just, it's been a thrill to get to know him. Myra, were you going to?
All of that is always great. Young people involved in the process and engaged in the direction we want to do. Welcome. We love having another diverse voice.
Council. All right. There being none, there's a motion and a second to approve a junior council member through the term July 1st through March 31st, 2024. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome aboard, Juan. Now we do have a formality and the mayor's going to administer the junior council pledge. That is a required part of the process from the state. I, Juan Luis Garcia Toya. Do solemnly pledge that I accept the position of the Borough of Fleet Square, junior council. I promise to attend monthly council meetings, observe Borough Council meeting rules, and actively participate in Borough. And I know there's a lot of friends and family here, so instead of making you wait until the end of the evening, we are going to take a 10-minute recess if we'd like to get some pictures taken and just take a little break before we get into the business. So we adjourn for 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Taking all the notes.
Look prophetic, Juan. Look like you're, yeah, like you're coming up with some major political statement.
Thank you.
All right, we'll get the meeting called back to order, please. We'll move into the reports now, and the president does not have a report tonight. I'll move over to the borough manager.
Sure, I'll keep it brief tonight. First, just congratulations to Councilmember Tafoya, to echo Councilmember Zavala. It's nice to see a younger person getting involved in government and trying to do good. As far as the library questions that came up, we'll get into that in a full discussion during this meeting. Just the spoiler is it would be in lieu of the payments that the borough is making out of our general fund. And then the only other item here in regards to an NVF study, I think that's referencing a study that Kennett Collaborative did last winter. So the borough has not put out or commissioned a study on that. So I think that's what that's referring to. It may still be online, but okay. So just that, those are two updates. Thank you.
Anything from the solicitor's office, Mr. Crotty? Is that right? Thank you. Lieutenant Rongus, anything from the police department? Chief Brady, anything from the fire department? Thank you. Finance committee.
Mr. President, the finance committee met on June 15th The primary topics we discussed were the 2023 police budget and capital needs for this year, but also starting to take a look at our budgeting for next year. Overall in pretty good shape. Revenue slightly below, and believe it or not, expenses are slightly above, but we should be tracking towards pretty good for the end of the year. Parking is the one that's really way over what was budgeted. The activity in the garage and the revenue from that activity is really been quite a bit higher than we've seen in the past. I think there were 4,300 users that we saw in the first quarter, I believe, Kyle, first quarter, May. And so certainly doing extremely well there. We're looking at improving the kiosks. There's one arm on the garage, and at times it can really hold people up if they don't know how to use it. So we're looking at better signage and also and maybe putting in a second arm to make it quicker for the garage overall. We do have a police contract renegotiation coming up next year. And we will be hearing a little bit about capital at our meeting on Wednesday. We're looking at our 2024 capital plan. We have some large capital projects you'll hear about tonight. And that's sort of the highlight for that. If I could take just 30 seconds more to talk about kind of a brief sewer update. We are working with New Garden Aqua. They have an agreement which was given just a couple month extension, I guess, Mike. And we're looking at reducing the amount of sewer capacity that they have a guarantee of, which would allow us to use that sewer capacity elsewhere. And also making sure that we set a minimum monthly fee. Right now, there is no minimum monthly fee, but we are required to hold that capacity because of the agreement. So we're looking to get some consideration for that. And also whether we can renegotiate this and use that as terms for any other renegotiations we want to do. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Norris? All right, let's see here. Anything from human relations? Nothing from personnel this week. I mean, we're going to meet in 2 weeks, I believe. Mr. Mayor, I think public safety, everything's the items on the agenda tonight, correct? Anything else reports wise? Light month for reports. So we will move on to the discussion items. The first is the Historic Architectural Review Board application for 300 Marshall Street. This is a demolition of an existing add-on structure, which is a kitchen, and construction of a 2-story addition. I didn't see anyone from the Harb here. Am I missing anyone?
I said that he was away on vacation, but
Okay. I mean, this is the application's in the packet, and it was a unanimous vote to approve the COA. So council, any discussion on this item?
Yeah.
I actually love what the owners have done with this property. I know the front porch, which went through the hard process a couple years ago, that looks really nice. And I think what they're doing in the back of the house is going to be a nice addition to it. Any objections to moving this to the consent agenda? We have the information, John. What's that? We have the Harb report, the application, the approval. All right, we're going to move on to special events. First one, Kennett Brewing Company, Apple Alley Outdoor Seating. Mr. Mayor, are you bringing that up, or Lieutenant Rongas?
Do you want to go over who's going to go over the application?
Sure.
So there was a special event application from Kennett Brewing Company to close Apple Alley on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the weekends now through October, so they can have outdoor seating and dining as part of their restaurant. They came in and provided public safety information. We looked at what they provided and felt that it was safe and doable, but we didn't take a position on whether council should or shouldn't approve it. We felt that it was important for council to hear from them and review the information and then make a decision from there. So safety wise, it was fine, but we didn't take a position on whether it should be permitted or not.
So safety wise, would that include, did that encompass traffic as well? How it would impact the traffic?
Yes, the alley would not be closed anytime State Street would be closed. So if there was an event on State Street, the alley would not be closed so that you could continue that to have traffic that comes down the alley. So it would only be closed when State Street would be open. Since COVID, they have been closing that alley. This year, this is the first time that they brought through the application to close the alley. But in 2020, 21, and 22, they did close the alley on the weekends for outdoor dining.
And I know Mark and Jossie, you're here. Is there anything that you would like to present on behalf of KVC? If so, feel free to come up to the mic. John. Let's let the business flow, John.
Well, greetings to esteemed council members and the public in general. And thank you for our supporters back there. Chomping at the bit. The only thing that I'd like to say is we have done that over a number of years under the governor's emergency declaration. And we police the area, we put the barricades up and take them down at the end of the night. And we've never had an incident that I know of. And I would hope that in the future it would be the same. And I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any questions from council for Mr. Osborne while he's on the podium?
Is there any staff costs, Kyle, to the borough? No.
No, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Well, it came through on public, but there are no costs because they put their barricades up themselves and take them down themselves.
Comment or?
Go ahead.
I love the vibrancy of downtown Kennet. When folks are out and around and walking, I personally think that it's way more about people than it is about cars. And some people will drastically disagree with me, and I will at times when I'm frustrated driving through as well. But I just love when things like that are happening. I understand there might be some inconveniences to shutting that down on such a regular basis. But personally, I think the trade-off is well worth it. I would certainly support that. And I would say, let's try it for this year. It's only July, August, September, October. It's 4 months.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, or if there's major inconveniences or any safety issues, folks from fire and EMS or police, then we can certainly pull that back. And I'm sure Mark and Jossie understand that. But let's try it. Let's continue to build that vibrancy in the borough.
Thank you.
One of the questions that I had was when I saw maximum number of participants, I saw 30, and I thought that was pretty low. So based on this, it looks like it's just tables and serving outdoors. So this isn't for band events, or this application per se is just for the serving and providing the outdoor dining. Okay. Because that would be my only concern as far as just, it's lovely when the bands are there, but I think that just because it wasn't on this application, if there was going to be anything that grew in size or was something bigger, that we had a separate discussion and application for. Any other council discussion?
I would generally agree with what.
John,
Bob
please let
said.
council discuss, please. Thank you.
I would
John,
generally agree with.
Please
what
let
Bob
council
said,
discuss.
With
You
the,
don't need this each time.
the small point that it's not even necessarily a trial run. As was stated, we've done it for the past 3 years practically, and no issues or incidents that have happened. And so I see no reason not to continue the program.
Anything?
I have a quick question. Is it pretty quick to move things out of there just in case something were to happen and people need to get through it?
It's on the application, Charlotte. Thank you. Charlotte, Ms. Watson, Mr. Thomas. I don't need questions each of these. So Friday, 5 to 10, Saturday, noon to 10, Sunday, noon to 8. All right. Anything else from council? Any objections to moving this to consent tomorrow or Wednesday?
No.
All right. That'll go to consent then. All right, Catching Dreams Over the Edge. This looks like a fun event.
This is a special event application for Camp Dreamcatcher. And what they are proposing to do is they are working with a fundraising group called Over the Edge. And they plan to have a one-day event where participants will rappel off of the Genesis building. And each person that rappels is raising money, a minimum of $1,000 each. And the organization that manages this is a large national organization. We went through the process with them, reviewed all their information. This is all they do is these fundraisers. They've never had an incident. They have the safety in place. What they are going to do, and they've worked with Genesis on this. They did a site visit, the group that will manage it. And participants will come, they will go into the Genesis building, they'll go up to the roof, they'll be put into a harness, they'll rappel over the edge into Apple Alley. So the request is to close Apple Alley on the from 7 a.m. till 6:30 on the 29th. However, vehicle traffic will be able to flow through if one of the buildings there need access. There will be a traffic marshal there. So it's not, they need a very small landing area. However, they wouldn't want traffic to be flowing through as somebody was coming down. So they would have somebody there to allow traffic to move through the alley. They, I think they've addressed all the safety issues that were on there. They're hoping to get up 75 rappellers at $1,000 each, which would give them $75,000 raised in one day, which is almost 3/4 of their annual budget. So they're really excited this one-day event could really give them a huge lift going into next year. Public safety reviewed it, and with the police department, did not ask for any fire EMS, as the safety and those types of things are managed through the organization. And we made a recommendation that the application be approved.
Questions for the mayor or police chief, public safety?
I understand that they've done events like this. Like you said, they're a national group. Do we know what other locations they've done events like this?
So because of the way they raise money, they give one license to do this in a certain geographical area. So it's been in Philadelphia for the last 6 years. The group that used it gave up their license. So they were on the waiting list and they were able to get the next license. The next closest place that has a license is in Lancaster County. And they've had a license, I think, for the same amount of time, 5 or 6 years that it's been run in Lancaster County, but that's the next closest license.
Do we know anything about like because they just generally do it off of buildings in towns like this?
It's all urban rappelling. So it's all in towns, off of buildings, everything from a 4-story building. I think, I don't remember what he said, maybe like a
It's on 15.
yeah, much higher buildings. And they bring in their rigging and they've been on the site and
Going
everything
into
else.
tight alleys like this and stuff like that.
It's
They're
all
well-
urban.
Yeah. well acquainted.
And Patty Hokirk, who's the executive director at Camp Dreamcatcher, she has been in constant contact with council, borough manager, public safety committee, really covering all the bases with this. One of the concerns or questions I had, so they're rappelling down the back of the building into Apple Alley. What number of spectators do they think they're gonna get?
Oh, so they are not advertising or promoting the event other than to the rappellers who are going to raise money. Because they did not want to draw a lot of spectators their first year, and they wanted to focus on the fundraising and the rappellers. It's quite possible the rappellers would invite their own family to come. So they did, that's why they wanted a little bit of an area, but they are not promoting it as an event to come and watch. That doesn't mean people aren't going to stop and watch. It doesn't mean that there won't be some, but they're specifically not promoting it for an audience. They want to focus on the fundraiser, on the safety and making it happen. Once they understand how it goes, they may be back next year, if it goes well, and ask for more space to be able to accommodate an audience. So they're not even putting it out really on the website other than for repellers.
So basically the sidewalk area, if we did get spectators or passersby that take a look at it, would be sufficient.
Yeah, when we looked at other places that have done it for them with locations, some of them turn it into an all-day event with food and music, and you watch everybody come down. That is not their intent. Their intent is to try it out, see how it goes, and try to raise their budget.
Okay, great. Any other questions from council? I'm repelling, John. And I am going to repel, and you are more than happy to donate to me.
I thought about it until I went on top of the parking garage last week and realized how high the Genesis building was. And as I looked over and looked down, I thought, yeah, I'm not sure that I'm meant for that.
No freaking way.
Any,
Is there any?
I will be there cheering them on.
Ann's already gotten a new life insurance policy for me. So.
Gotta see it.
John's looking for counsel.
You didn't read the fine print, Juan. You got to repel. Any other council discussion on this?
Fire EMS, you guys, police, you guys are all good to go. No issues. Well, maybe issues, hopefully not. But, and no liability, Mr. Solicitor, from the town by approving this?
Building.
Okay, I would personally take the stairs, but. Oh.
Any other questions? Any objection to moving this to consent on Wednesday? All right, it will go to consent. Sticking with the special events, a great event that missed having last year, National Night Out. Lieutenant Rongus, you taking this one to kick it off?
So National Night Out is a nationally recognized event. It's for community building between the police department and the local residents. This year, we've collaborated with Kennett Township Police Department to hold a larger event. We'd like to use the parking lot from the city to try to have this event. They're still planning some stuff now, but we can, ban food trucks, fun events, and games like that. We thought it was good walkability so that everybody could do something new.
Any questions from council?
It's just nice to see that the township and the borough together are kind of joining forces on this one.
Yeah, so last year we kind of did our own event and then in the township also did one. So in helping with the chief board and chief board. It'd be a much better event if we could come together. And township plus overseas community.
Well, I personally think this is a great opportunity for the constituents here in the borough to have a good relationship with the police department. So this is a good event. I will hopefully get to attend, and I 100% support this.
Anything else from council?
I'd echo the same thing, sentiment. I'd argue that this is one of the best events in the borough. And really work to develop trust in the community and neighborhood camaraderie. I'm wondering, is it in years past, it was at several of the apartment complexes. Are we hoping to expand to that as well, or are we using it a lot here?
So I know that in past years, it was up on Millennium Street, and part of the conversation we had that it was maybe a little bit far up with folks on the south end of the borough. Now in working with Kennett Township, we figured that this would be a big enough venue and close enough that people from the apartment complex could put on. We haven't discussed a smaller, there's going to be apparatus from the fire department.
Anything else from council? Any objection to consent for that? All right, that's the end of the special events. Moving on to public works now, and we're going to look at considering the acceptance of the paving contract.
Sure. So I'll open this up. This is an exciting moment, I think, for the borough. If you remember, obviously, we raised taxes last year. A big chunk of that money was to invest in our capital and rebuilding the basic infrastructure of our town. So without, giving away the presentation, I'll invite up Denise Rodriguez, who's our Assistant Public Works Director, and she's going to walk through the paving program coming out this year.
Hi.
Hello.
I'll do this quickly, but so the paving contract that you're going to hopefully approve tonight. I just want to take you through the roads that'll be done and how we got there. Rachel, next slide. Thank you. So the map you can see up there is our program that is called Robotics. And basically we had every road in the borough assessed. So they gave them scores based on their condition. And you can see like the red, the green, the yellow. Our goal is to try to get most of the red off this year as much as possible. So Rachel, I'm sorry, next slide. We determine priority using a couple of things. We use the robotics program. We take calls from residents, and then we take walks, and rides around town, and we compare all three to see what is the best route forward, and make sure our list includes the roads that should be done this year. Okay, so that's our list there. That's the basis of our list. What makes it complicated a little bit this year is that we applied for a grant through the CRP grant that we have not yet received, or we don't know if we'll receive it yet. We're hoping we will. We're going to move forward as if we did receive it. That way we have the match if we do get the grant. If not, we're going to pivot at the end of the paving season and just pave the roads that we would have paved had we not gotten the grant. It's going to cost, you have to bear with me so I can see that. It's going to cost $233,275. And that's going to be funded through liquid fuels and capital project money that was approved in the budget for this year. Unfortunately, not every road makes the cut. We do have people call in and ask if their road's next, and we just have to go, like I said, on the robotics and the list we assessed. And then there's our two lists there. The biggest difference is Willow Street. With the grant, we hope to do the entirety of Willow Street. Without the grant, we would just do one block of it. That's it.
And this is available for the public to view, correct?
Yes, on the website. What's on the website? Yes. Yep.
Thank you, Denise. Any questions for Denise?
No, I think it's great to see it. Can we pull it off? Can we get these roads done this season still?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a pretty good working relationship with Long's Paving. They've done most of the roads in the borough. So hopefully once the contract is approved, we can get started hopefully later this month or next month. And they're very confident that they can do every road on this list.
I noticed that it was a multi-municipal bid from Longs.
Yes.
Does it matter if some of the other municipalities don't do this work? Are the prices locked in for us?
Yes, the prices are locked in for us. We do it that way instead of individually because it's better pricing because it's done in bulk. But to answer your question, every municipality is considered individually with their contracts. So if somebody else doesn't do their work, that's on them, not us.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Discussion? I know that with the passing of that last budget, this was a priority, so it's nice to see all those alleys and roads listed on there.
There's a resident question. Do you guys take resident questions? I'm sorry.
I'll entertain one question, as long as it's a good one.
Ooh, I should know that one too. The grant is for, but the grant, so let me preface that. The grant is for $400,000. But the grant will also cover some crosswalks and a new speed table in front of Michoacana on State Street.
And then just for context from a taxing perspective, each mill is $250,000. And we put 2 1/4 towards capital because there was the increase or 1 3/4. There was a 3.5 increase total. Half of it went to capital. So that's 1 3/4. That's $425,000. About 125,000 is going to Birch Street and the remainder of 300,000 is for these roads. So potentially, so the Birch Street is needed to match the original grants for stormwater that we received for that road. So the grant would potentially from the county double our road paving budget for this year.
Any other questions for council? Any objections to moving this to consent? All right, so that will be consent. Bid award for Red Clay Park.
Sure, I'll, first off, thanks Denise, that was a good presentation.
Yes.
Secondly, we will move on to another grant funded project. It's the Red Clay Park, another bid award. So getting close to construction on each of these. I'll turn it over to Christina from one of our partner organizations.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Christina Norland. I'm the Executive Director of Kennett Trails Alliance. It's good to see all of you here tonight. As Kyle mentioned, we're talking about Red Clay Park and specifically a project that we've been working on as part of a public-private partnership with the Borough and Kennett Trails Alliance over the course of the last year. This pocket park, well, the larger area, just so that everyone's familiar, that we're talking about is how do we think about restoring and revitalizing the natural green space along the east branch of the Red Clay Creek that runs from State Street all the way down to the railroad tracks and the fire company's property. We have worked with the borough to do a demonstration project, essentially a pocket park that will be at the corner of Cypress and Dalmatian. That project has already been now engineered and put out to bid, and the project received its bids last week. And the council's role here is to determine whether they will accept the lowest bid. Now, when we received the bids back, the scope of the bids themselves came back much higher than the budgeted amount that we were looking for. As a result, we did some work both with the contractor as well as with the engineers to tailor the scope in order to bring the project cost down a bit, though not back to budget, and still be able to create a really great space for everyone and still have the components of the project that we want to have in that space, which includes nature play, stormwater management, a creek get down, and some riparian buffer plantings, and a bunch of other things. Some of the stuff that's going to be deferred until we can determine a more cost-effective way to complete them is the light poles. So the infrastructure for the lighting will go in. It's just a matter of actually attaching the poles to the boxes, and that is probably the biggest sort of noticeable change, I think, from what we were initially talking about. Now, that's not to say that that's going to be deferred forever. It's just we would like to figure out some cost-effective ways to bring the final budget into something manageable. So in terms of making sure that everyone understands how this is being paid for, so Kennett Trails Alliance has entered into a memorandum of understanding with the borough that Kennett Trails Alliance, together with a $125,000 grant that was received by the borough from the Commonwealth Financing Authority, will be paying in full for the construction costs, as well as all of the engineering that has been done, as well as the construction management, and has also agreed to maintain the project for 5 years. So we're in agreement with the engineer's bid recommendation, which is construction will be $727,638.
Thank you.
And we just got that update a couple hours ago. So if council has the original number, it was 722,938. So as Christina just said, 727,638. Questions from council?
Christina, who do you work for?
I'm the executive director of Kent Trails Alliance, which is majority funded by Square Roots Collective.
Why?
Why do I work there?
No. Why did they fund this?
Because our mission is to create a place where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. And in my specific case, in terms of Kent Trails Alliance, our goal is to create places and spaces that are free and welcoming to everyone in our community to be able to enjoy their life. And this is a space that is in need of ecological restoration. It is at the heart of our borough. And we want to be able to bring nature and the community together in a place where they can go out and enjoy themselves and don't have to pay to do it.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion from council?
Is there any reason not to delay the project until it can be fully afforded?
So that's a great question. So the risk in delaying is that costs will continue to increase. So we weighed that as to whether or not we should, try to issue a request for bids again together with the borough in the spring. But we believe that the potential for cost increases is not worth the risk in waiting. So we will continue to look for innovative ways of getting some of the additional stuff that we're removing from this particular bid into the project. And I'm not too concerned about that, but I think we want to move forward and get this going and really get a chance for the public to enjoy it.
I guess my only thought is the only thing worse than no park is a half-finished park.
Well, it definitely won't be half finished. So, as I mentioned, all the major components and the ability for the public to enjoy it will be there.
It'll be usable. It'll be-
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly a matter of like some stuff might be done by volunteers, right? Like stuff like that. And then we're working with figuring out other funding mechanisms that doesn't involve burdening the borough or its residents.
Anything else from council? Any objection to move this to consent? All right. Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to move to considering the referendum for the library tax.
Sure. So, sorry. So this came to the borough about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. There's a request from the library to currently the borough funds the library's contribution via our general fund, so via tax dollars that residents pay into. This proposal would see that shift to a dedicated library tax on your bill. So as a partner of the borough, we felt there's reason for the library to be able to present that proposal here tonight. So I'll turn it over to Jeff. By the way, a thank you to Jeff for his work in getting the library through to completion. It's really worth checking out if you haven't yet.
Would appreciate it. Yes, thank you. Well, good evening. I'm here to talk about taxes. I'm the lucky guy that gets to do that. I'm sorry, John, I didn't hear that. Boo, yes. In the course of this, I'm going to also dispel some myths, some misconceptions about libraries. This has nothing to do with building a library. The library was built well over 50% with individual contributions from not just the borough, but from all around the community. North of us, west of us, east of us, they've all stepped up and put in the townships as a whole, put in 2.4 million. The borough, and I need to be very careful here, put in no money, but that's not a good look at what you did. You did sell us the original property which is half of our campus now. And you gave us a 30% discount, which amounted to 167,000. We paid for the rest of it. So 7 townships gave us money. We gave you money, but you gave us a great deal on a property. And that allowed us to buy the other 2 properties. And all of that came from donations to the library. First of all, I'd like to take you inside the current library. First of all, if you haven't been there, you're in for a surprise. The new library is truly amazing. We are getting 3 times the number of people in every day that we got before. If you like small kids having a great time, go to our 2nd floor. If you have adults reading a book in the corner in a comfortable chair, it's definitely worth seeing it. All of this is free to the community. So this is not something just, I wish I could take some of Christina's words about enjoying it free. There is no charge for this. That's what you get with our library. This new library is 3 times bigger than the old library. It will cost 30% more than the old library. That's pretty efficient. Not 3 times as much to operate the library, but only 30% more. And we have plans for that to equalize itself in 5 years. Next. This is normally what you used to think of the old library. This is a bunch of pictures from the old library, and we had a lot of people jammed in there. You're not going to see anybody in a wheelchair there because we were not ADA accessible. We are now. We are ADA accessible in both entrances. That has been a really big thing. If you were a senior, you probably never went to the children's library because that involved stairs. We now have an elevator to make sure people can move between 2 stairs. We don't charge for any of that. Next. Libraries are free to everyone, but they are not free to operate. Libraries have staff, libraries have bills. We have energy bills. We have to, well, for instance, we're leasing the Y parking lots. So you now have almost 100 free parking spaces in Kennett Square. Sorry about that, but no one's paying to park at the library now, and they've been using that. They've been full almost every day. Next. The Borough of Kennett Square, and you really need to understand the way this library operates. We service 8 municipalities. We service New Garden, Kennett, East Marlborough, Pennsbury, Pocopson, Newland, and West Marlborough, plus the Borough of Kennett Square. You fortunately have the advantage of being able to walk to your library. The parking is really not for you guys. You can walk there. It's for everybody else that's coming into the library. So this is not just something that the burden of it falls on the Borough of Kennett Square. Having a regional library, which is what Chester County desires, they have a number of these around the county, saves us millions of dollars, enables a larger and better library, very cost effective, and of course it's accessible to our whole region. As I said before, most borough residents are within walking distance. Next. From 2012 to 2016, we lost money. Why did we lose money? Well, there was an economic downturn, but that wasn't the big reason. The the federal government, excuse me, decided that if we were going to teach people to speak English, they needed a master's degree. You can imagine what a master's degree costs when we have 6 teachers to teach these classes. So we said, well, forget the federal funding, which was $200,000, and we took it upon ourselves. And over the 6 years, we got pretty close to breaking even, but we were still losing money. Next, but over the last 6 years, we've transformed the library. We've had new leadership, new board of trustees, relationships and trusts were restored. We have a public-friendly name and a new brand, and not here to discuss whether it should be the Byard Taylor Memorial Library or the new Kennett Library, the Kennett Public Library, but it does seem that we've turned that corner and people are embracing that. We've got new policies, safeguards, and processes. We balanced the budget in the last 6 years, for the last 6 years continuously, something that I don't think any other library except for the main Chester County Library has done, and they have most of your tax money to do it. In addition, we built a 33,425 square foot building, but not with the revenue that we get to operate the library. That was all separately raised between federal grants, state grants. County has not yet come in yet. Most of it was individual donors. And then we had a lot of foundations that stepped up. In addition, as I mentioned before, 2.4 million from all of the different municipalities. So this was a real community effort. And I guess I have to thank everybody that has contributed to the library because you made a real miracle possible. I'm a newbie here. I'm an import from Delaware in 2002. And all I heard about was library. When are we going to build a library? When are we going to build a library? And in 2016, Tom Sweat came on as our new president and believed in collegiality, working together, and we turned this around, and you now have a new library. If you haven't been in the new library, I encourage you to do so because it is amazing. We've had a number of people say this is the best library in Pennsylvania. Well, we're amazed it just opened, but I think you're going to be very impressed. Next. We've transformed our finances. I mentioned we are now in the black, and that has been very important. We have a very responsible, and you don't have to take my word for it. Go to our website. Every quarterly numbers are on there for since 2016, and we will continue to do that. We are transparent. We do not deal with our money. We deal with other people's money and county money and federal money. Next. The 2023 budget for the Kennett Library, and it's up about $250,000 from before. We're a bigger library. We projected revenue of $1.2 million and expenses of $1.29 million. We're not asking you to fund that. The $89,000 will come out of some retained earnings from the 6 years of plus revenue. And we have it figured out that we will not have to come to anybody for more money to run this library. Next. How is the library funded? I bet nobody in this room knows how libraries are funded. They're not municipal. In Pennsylvania, they are not municipal. Our new director is from Oklahoma, not exactly the most progressive state in the nation. And the state and county pays for everything for the libraries. They don't have to go hat in hand for anything. In Pennsylvania, we have, I think in Chester County, we have 17 libraries and probably 10 of them lose money every year. It's very difficult because the funding just is not there. In our case, the federal government provides nothing, and that's a misnomer. They give a little bit to the state, which they pass through, and then they take credit for. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania provides 11.4% of our funding, Chester County 10.3%, and that is your tax dollars. There is a tax for county libraries. They do fund that. 8 municipalities that we serve, and that includes you, provide almost 40%. Almost 40% of our operating budget is from them. Individual and corporate donors, 17.5%. That's your next door neighbor. We run an annual appeal once a year, and we have some fundraisers, and that helps bring that in. Fundraising events, about 9%, and grants currently are 5.6. We project going considerably higher. So we have a little ways to go, and we're going to do it. But that's not what tonight's about. Next. We're talking about a dedicated library tax, and this is not something that's weird. This is something the way libraries are funded nationwide. Currently, there are 3 townships that have dedicated taxes that we service. East Marlborough puts in $128,000 a year, Kennett Township $159,000, and New Garden $82,000. There is one proposed, and that is you. And before someone says, "Oh, wait a minute, they can really afford it," yes, they can, and that's why it's on assessed values. Your assessed value in the borough is 1/3 of what Kennett Township is. They deserve to pay more. They can afford to pay more. We have 4 other smaller municipalities, and we will be going out for referendums in them in the future. Next. Dedicated library tax is about modernizing the way the borough of Kennett shares the cost of a library. It's generating funds very efficiently, and something that really takes no time and no cost as it comes on your annual real estate. The proposed tax is 0.2 mils, not 2.0 mils, 2.2 mils. That's 20 cents on every $1,000 of assessed value. Every property owner participates. And for those of you that live here, you'll be happy to know that all of the absentee landlords will also be paying it on their properties because they're paying property tax. The municipality allows the voters to decide. These folks, for once, John, they're not going to make a decision you would disagree with. If you don't agree with it, it'll be the voters that make the decision. No one's pushing it tonight. We're not asking for approval. All we're asking is to put it on the ballot and let the public decide. Next. It's collected with your annual borough tax. Nothing to do for you or the library. Does not increase the size of government. Little or no cost to the borough. Sustainable and predictable. Predictable is important. Try and do a budget when every year you go hat in hand to the municipality, and they're not alone, and say, well, what is your budget going to allow? This is really what we need, and this is what you did last year. And for those of you that don't know, and no offense, But we had an agreement to get $58,000 if we built in the borough. Last year, we were cut to 40,000. So that predictability is one reason that we're coming to do this course. So we are requesting that the Kennett Borough Council authorize a referendum to be placed on the November ballot that would add 0.2 mil to the borough real estate tax to be used exclusively for the support of the new Kennett Library. This tax would eliminate and, in a sense, return the $40,000 that you're currently giving us back to your general fund. So we're not going to be double dipping. The actual referendum will read, do you favor increasing the Borough of Kennett Square's real estate tax by 0.2 mils? The revenue for such increase to be used exclusively to fund the operation of the Kennett Library. If you've ever looked at our ballots and looked at those questions on the back and you can try and figure out what they're talking about, this is pretty darn clear. You're either for funding it or not. That's your decision. That's the voters' decision. Got some questions because I'm sure there's a few questions here. How much will a typical landowner or a homeowner in the borough pay? Now, this is according to Chester County. The average assessed value is $122,377. That comes out to $24.48 a year or 47 cents a week. The average, the most properties will pay between $15 and $30 depending on their assessments. The library, as I mentioned before, received 58 before, and we were cut to 40. However, this 0.2 mil will not increase our revenue. This will only get us back to 50,760 based on the current assessment. We're not trying to be greedy here. We're just trying to get something that's predictable. The $40,000 will no longer be given by the borough out of the general fund. Is this a new concept? Has it ever been used before? It's the primary method for funding libraries in the United States of America. In Chester County, Kennett, East Marlboro, New Garden, Chadds Ford, I guess that's Delaware County, Tredyffrin and Easttown Townships all have dedicated library taxes. It's interesting to note that Tredyffrin and Easttown, because they have self-contained libraries, they pay for everything. They pay for all that. When they build new libraries, they paid for it. When they, every year, all the maintenance, they pay for it. They get a little bit from the county, a little bit from the state. The rest is on the township. We're lucky we get to share it with 8 other municipalities, and they're much larger. We bring in about $440,000 a year. With this pass, you'd be 51,000 of that. It's not a big part of what you've got, and it's right down the streets. I think everybody can probably figure out how to see what this is going to cost them, but if you multiply your assessment by 0.0002, please get the number of zeros right. You'll see what it costs. It's a very small amount of money. What do we use the funds for? We do not use them to build a library. That is a separate campaign. We have already raised 20 million of the $22 million goal. We are fairly confident by the first quarter of next year that we will have completed that. That is not what this is about. This is strictly to operate the library. And we have to spend 12% of our budget every year for books and library materials every year. So that's going to take care of that. Ebooks. Everybody here likes ebooks. I don't have to get out of my house. I can just download it. An ebook costs us $84. We can lend it out 26 times. A real book costs us $25. We can lend it out 1 million times. Ebooks are very expensive, and they are now 50% of our circulation. So that's what this money will go to funding the ebooks. Also, all the other services that we have. If you've been to the new library, you may have seen the maker spaces. You may have seen the auditorium where there'll be community events, maybe the terrace. There's a lot of other stuff that just comes with that annual stipend to the library. We have 10 full-time and 23 part-time staff, including ESL teachers, that cover 6 days of operation. We will be going with this new budget to 7 days. We will be open on Sundays. Unbelievable. We'll be open when people aren't going to work and they want to come in and get books, but we're going to be doing that. All costs money. It's all payroll. This does not include all the volunteers. We have a board of trustees of 19 people that don't make a penny. We have 110 tutors for our ESL program. They're all volunteers, and the Friends of the Library has over 60 members. And if you went in there tomorrow, you'd see them selling tickets for Shop and Dine. That's one of our fundraisers where we don't ask for anybody to give us a gift certificate. We go out and buy 62 gift certificates and support the borough businesses. And then we sell the raffle chances and you get a chance to win $100 every day in the month of usually July, but because of our opening, we moved it to August. Next. Is there another way to fund the library? Yeah, it's called hat in hand. Every year you ask, you beg, you hope that you'll know what you're going to get. It's very inefficient, takes up the time. Everybody's got to make hard decisions. This locks it in until if the community is not happy, they run another referendum, they rescind the referendum, and we're back to the old way. But that is the old model. The new model is a dedicated library tax. Next. Very simple. If you pay your real estate taxes, you paid your library bill. It's not a separate bill. This tax, if passed by the public, would take effect on your 2024 bill. So what do you get for 47 cents a week? Because I know that's a lofty sum. You get a free and never-ending supply of books. That's both digital and real. You get a place that the family can hang out. And trust me, if you've been to our library since we've opened, you know there's a lot of families hanging out there. In fact, we got to talk today. We got to stop being a daycare. You know, we really got to, parents have to enjoy this too. We have activities for kids and all these programs are free. If you've ever been to our music program in the morning where we have 100 kids with sticks beating on the floor and they're like from 2 to 3 years old, it's amazing. It's all free. The moms got smiles all the way, just seeing their kids have a good time. We have over 1,000 programs a year and they're all free because we are supported by our municipalities. Last but not least, if for your neighbors, we help people with literacy, which personally for me is probably our #1 mission. We have a lot of folks in this community that do not speak English as a native language. And they're not all in the mushroom houses. You have a lot of au pairs up in the northern part of they may be from Poland, they may be from another country, they don't speak English. We teach over 400 people a year to speak English. We teach about every 45 days, we have a new US citizen that our tutors have helped to pass all those tests. And maybe the police department could pass it, but I don't think any of us could pass that test without a lot of study, the citizenship test. We also work with GEDs because as our new director is proud to say, I guess he's frustrated to say, 15 of the top 16 jobs in Chester County require more than a high school diploma. If you don't have that, you're going nowhere. You're stuck on a low end. We are dedicated to changing those lives. Next. So how do we figure the 47 cents? You know, that's the tax, but what do you get? Well, a book's $25. Audio books, $14.95 a month for audible.com. Take a subscription to the New York Times, which by the way, you can come in and read at our library, or you can even read online. That's well over $100 a year. It's not cheap. Last year, we returned $5 for every dollar that we spend. So that's a return of 500%. We think that's a pretty good deal. How can you support it? There may be someone here that wants to support it. Come out to vote. At the end of the ballot, you know, after you go through all the other things you don't really know about, on the back page usually, so it gets skipped a lot, there'll probably be the question on the library referendum. We encourage you to vote. Questions? Can we get questions if someone's concerned?
I'll open them up for council first, but I think that you can entertain some from the public as well. Anything from council?
Believe it or not.
You have a question?
I do. Thanks for the overview. And I am on the library fundraising committee, which hopefully will be done very soon.
And hopefully you'll get a little more active to finish it up.
Please. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I get no financial rewards, Mr. Solicitor, Madam Secretary. Why now? Why the referendum now?
Why not?
I'm asking you.
Why not?
Okay.
I mean, in a nutshell, you cut us by 30%. The year we were bringing that gorgeous building to your community, and we really need to find something that's predictable. And that's really the main reason. Plus, there's a shiny new object down there, which we know from the people walking through the door, they're a gaga about it. I think people will vote for it.
I hear you, but in fairness, this council as it is sits right now, wasn't part of that $58,000 agreement. And this council also had to make some very, very tough decisions. So I hear what you're saying, but I guess if I was you, I'd use that for ammunition and say, well, that's exactly the point of the referendum, to have a set tax.
Consider it said.
Takes
Consider
it
it said, yes.
away from us, which from my perspective is good and bad, right? It takes it off our list of things that we have to debate and disagree on or agree on. But at the same time, it doesn't allow us to use that money elsewhere like we thought we had to do this year. So there's certainly trade-offs in terms of the pros and cons when it comes to that. What are the remedies? What are the ways that you can get it on the ballot?
Well, you can very graciously vote to put it on the ballot. Or we can go out and get 75 signatures and pay for our solicitor to put it on the ballot.
So with 75 signatures in the borough,
In the borough, just the borough, not outside.
you don't need us.
No, but it would be a really nice gesture if you're not deciding anything, the public decides.
And that's 75. That's not a set number. That's 3% of who voted in the last election.
Last
right?
election, correct. And that's it. I think it was 57.2 or something, but we're going to go over that.
My other comment, it's less for the library, and I certainly support what you guys have done. It's tremendous. It's a fantastic addition. I was thinking about this and actually speaking with Kyle a little bit earlier about this. And, we as council have a lot of struggles and a lot of decisions that have to do with budgets and prioritization. I mean, in one respect, this is sort of the easy way out, like, let the public decide. We don't have to worry about that. But it also is a remedy and something we probably should consider for some of the other even much larger decisions that we have. And, I'm looking at the volunteers and staff from the fire and EMS company. It might be something that we do consider. Say, hey, we value this. It's our responsibility to folks that live here. Maybe it's something we should consider to lock it in. And then frankly, whatever's left over, it's up to the council, with your input to decide exactly what we want. It's just something I was thinking about earlier. And the same thing, I guess you could do the same thing for the police or public works, or you could take it to the extreme, but it is something to consider overall.
So just to clarify one point, so under Pennsylvania law, a referendum can only go on the ballot for certain reasons. They have to be set out in a statute. It can't be just anyone gets 75 signatures and you can put whatever you want on the ballot. And this one is in the library code, which allows it. I'm not sure that the other taxing source, you can certainly set designated proprietary taxes for certain things under the borough code. But they don't necessarily allow for a referendum to do it.
The problem is it's getting so expensive to live here, right? That's the struggle that we all have. We get wonderful amenities and a great place to call home and go drink a beer or go play or take a walk. But man, it's getting so expensive and we're forcing people out or not to be able to live here, which is, it sucks to put it really bluntly. But anyways, I go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I don't think that's the wonderful solution that it sounds like. It actually disenfranchises all of the people in this community that don't have the right to vote. So while it sounds like we're putting power in the hands of the people, it's really limiting them from having a voice in big decisions like this that will make it harder for them to pay taxes or really to live.
Can you just explain that a little bit more to me?
There are several people in this community, particularly the migrant community, that don't have the ability to vote. They're not US citizens. And so using the referendum is not a way to really include them in the civic process. Decisions that are going to affect their everyday life and drive up costs.
Are they not already excluded by lacking the ability to vote for us who would otherwise be excluded?
Bingo.
They have the ability to come here and speak their voice and use representatives in the community that are able to speak for them. So it's different.
Anything else from council? Are there any questions for the public for Mr. Yetter? And I'll entertain one question per. Ms. Oplinger? Right.
0.2.
22 mil.
$51 now.
Anyone can answer.
I think it's a little bit of apples and oranges, I think, because the 40,000 is what we put in the budget for 23. And Mr. Yetter's comment is some prior council had a handshake for 58,000, which this council did not think was the right number for the library for 2023. And so, I mean, to his point, there's a council has the will of the council to do whatever, you know, these folks want to do it sometimes. But the other point is that 40,000, which is in this year's budget, is taxpayer money, just like the 0.2. It comes from the same pocket. So it's just forcing that 0.2% being only usable for the library. And we can take that 40,000 and give it back, like, or not charge people for that by reducing taxes, which is one option. So the net would be $17,000. Well, it would be if that gets done. I'm saying that's one option, which would mean that it was a $17,000 net cost to the borough if everything stays the same. But houses get reappraised as additions go on or things change. The county hasn't reassessed property values in decades, I believe.
30 years.
Yeah. So the chances, I mean, that's a pretty politically unpopular thing to do. Well, you lock in the 0.2.
Lock in the 0.2.
Lock
Yeah.
in 0.2. No. That's what it is based on the current assessed values. Now you build the place down across from sorry, Victory, yes. That goes up. That's going to increase revenues. The building we just sold, that's going to be a $3 million building when they get done. That's going to increase your tax revenues. So that will tend to go up a little bit, but it goes up a little bit on a really big base. So maybe next year it goes to 52.3 and the following year 52.7. It's going to go up very slowly. We still won't get back to where it was, but
there
we're
is a
trying to
risk.
do what's-
There is a risk also, and I'm sure the library has considered this, right? Not likely, but what in 2008, you know, property values plummeted, you know, so that guarantee is only there if the real estate values are there. So there's
Yeah,
not a
take the
strong
risk.
likelihood, but risk.
John, you had a question.
$24.48. Okay. Your choice is good.
So John, you didn't have a question, right? Mr. Operator.
Prior to that. Nothing. I'll answer the last, they give us nothing. They just eliminated some of their classes. They asked us to take them over. They have added costs. They were potentially adding costs to us. They give us no money. We don't get money from any nonprofit with the exception of, and I'm thrilled to say this, Longwood Gardens. They donated $250,000 to the new building, but they don't support us on an ongoing basis. You're gonna have to tell me the other two questions because I'm getting old. As I explained, that's okay. No, as I explained, it's real simple. 2012 to 2016, we lost money because in 2012, we walked away from $200,000 in federal money to support the ESL features. The board at that time felt it was important enough in our community, which is heavily non-English speaking, to support that. So they dug into their endowment to pay those losses so we would continue teaching. So that's why then from 2016 on, check our website, you can see that we've been in the positive, slightly positive, or some years from like $50,000, $60,000 plus, which now is funding this year's loss and maybe next year's loss as we digest the larger library. We're gonna make the same proposal to the other four townships.
The four that aren't. Yeah.
Well, no, all townships are contributing. Long ago and far away, you may not want all this detail. We had something called fair share. Fair share it was based on population, card holders, assessed value, and one other factor I can't remember off the top of my head. And every township was assessed, and they are paying that. However, that is an old metric. Now would be more fair that they all pay 0.2. In one case, it's identical, but it's secure. In three cases, we would get a little more. Not a significant amount more, but it stops the annual getting on your knees, going to the 3 or 4 council meetings, sitting at all the budget meetings. If you've done that, no offense, they're god awful. You're there forever just to make sure you get something. Once you get the tax put in, which is the way most of America works, not Pennsylvania, unfortunately, then that's relieving. Hopefully
Kyle, did you have a point that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, just regarding the question, all else equal, my point was that we're not looking to use this money to fill another funding gap. So all else equal, the idea is if they put on 0.2 mils for library, we would just take it off of ours. Now, who knows where our funding will end up, but that was the point of what I was saying.
One question. Oh, I saw the hand go up first. Thank you. And wins.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes. That's another auditorium terrace. We've had 9-year-olds want to have their birthday parties there already. We've had 3 organizations want to have meetings in the auditorium. We're at the point of saying, wait till September. Let us figure out what's going on. Let's make sure we get the lights turned off, the screen comes down. We haven't gotten there just yet. So there will be some revenue, but oddly enough, we did the forecast. That's like $40,000 a year. It really doesn't bring in that much unless you're doing it every week. Now, the one thing really the coup de grace here, the thing that really convinces everybody, you're gonna have a movie theater here in Kennett Square. And guess how much the movies will be? Free. Because we as a library can show first run movies for free. The only problem is gonna be, you're gonna have to be somewhat intuitive. We won't show you Top Gun Maverick, but we will show you the latest Tom Cruise movie with fighter jets. If you can figure out, you can come watch that in our, Shrek, when Shrek came out, I believe they called the Big Happy Green Monster. But we're hoping to have 50 movie nights a year for the community. There'll be some during the day for the kids. If you've got grandkids or small kids, they watch the same movie over and over and over again. We're gonna have those movies in a 110-seat auditorium for the kids.
Carla, did you,
Sorry? If you twist our arm, we will take donations. We may even have something out that would sort of suggest that, yes.
Carla, did you have a question? On the water bill.
Please.
So we did pay more money. We didn't have to match the money, but and I have written down on my city code, we gave 3 different entities that you call them on the spot. And this is what I said. They don't call. That's not true about property. You say, well, that's better.
That was the 40,000, the contribution. Mm.
That was just happened. That was after December.
Check those notes.
That's after December, I can tell you.
Yep.
You know. So,
Oh, no, I just want it to be right. Mhm. Yeah. If this would go through, then that discussion would occur. Mm.
You don't want to support it, but you want to name it. I got it.
So I think it's a pretty safe bet that this is not be, that I think this is pretty clear that this isn't going to consent on Wednesday, and we're probably going to have this as a separate item. So we can answer some questions over the next couple of days, do a little more research, talk to some folks, and we'll discuss it individually on Wednesday. Any other thoughts from council though? All right. Thank you, Mr. Yetter. Appreciate your time. Let's see here. Considering the cooperation agreement between the borough and Kennett Library with the RACP grant.
Sure, this is a technical, legal paperwork item. This follows the borough previously 2-3 years ago supporting this RACP application for the library. It's a capital reimbursement grant from the state. This is one of many documents that is needed from the state, and hopefully we're getting close to reimbursement for the library. Mike, is there anything more?
No, it's essentially a pass through. It imposes obligations on us, but those obligations are then shifted immediately over to the library. There's no net dollar amount that comes on the borough.
Any questions for Kyle or the solicitor? It's pretty much a technicality. Any objection to moving this to consent? None. All right. Updated job description for the deputy manager.
Sure. So I'll walk through this proposal and then also provide a recommended next step here. The change here is primarily to change the supervisory role of the position. Sonny's been with the borough about a year. He would then be supervisor of our front desk receptionist, Olga. The thinking being that I want to really focus on our customer service. And by doing that change, I give him purview over that operation. This does not include a pay increase. And as far as next steps, it was raised that, the personnel committee should be able to discuss this. And although it's been discussed with members of the personnel committee, I think that it should formally go there. So the request here is to discuss it, give some general direction with the caveat that it then go to the personnel committee in a couple weeks.
And I think that that's just a good process to have from a consistency standpoint, is whether it maybe not every single job description, but for department heads, supervisory roles, I think that personnel getting their eyes on is probably a good idea process wise. Any questions or discussions? John, we're not answering that question.
Is the job title changing? Or just the job description?
Sorry, what's that?
Is the job title changing or? just-
Yes. Yeah. So it's assistant to the manager. It would go to deputy manager. And that's in recognition of good work done, trying to support our employees.
I think Sonny's done a fantastic job of really starting to improve the communications. One of the issues we have so often is, and it came out of our strategy session, is how lacking our communications were. And I think some of the stuff that I think Sonny has headed up has been great to get the word out, good and bad, and what's going on with streets or what's happening here, what's going on here. We have new technology coming in, but I think the more we can communicate to the show, to exhibit that transparency that we're trying to, and sometimes we struggle and we make mistakes. I think it's great. And I think he's a perfect guy for that job. And I love the direction we're going in.
And I do think that it's important from a rhetoric standpoint to frame it not so much Kyle needing an assistant. It's how can the borough be enhanced by an assistant to the manager, and what else can be done. And looking back years and years, when this wasn't done, this wasn't done, this wasn't done, we don't want to say, well, this borough manager only had so much. I mean, it wasn't a lacking of the individual. It was the demands that really were met by an assistant who could do that. And we've seen the benefits of that staffing decision. So I'm comfortable with moving in this direction as well. Anything else? John, please. We don't need, John, I don't want you to be a peanut gallery. I don't. So just stop. All right. Anything else from council? So we will table any action on this until personnel does have a chance to glance over, and then it'll be on in the next meeting. All right. And then we've got, I think we're sticking with Sonny though, as the new emergency management coordinator and resolute, we have to update a resolution.
Sure. So over the last, probably a year, maybe close to that, Chief Brady from Kennett Fire has filled this role for us. It was always intended to be temporary because it is a pretty significant undertaking. There's a lot of training that goes into it. So this is us trying to keep to that commitment to bring it in-house. Obviously with the understanding that we still coordinate with our emergency management, emergency response partners. So that's what it is.
Anything from council on that?
Will it detract from his focus on communications at all?
It's a good time commitment, but he's willing to do it. He's able to do it. So I feel confident he can.
With success, you keep getting more duties.
Any objection to moving this to consent for Wednesday? And then accepting the resignation of Terry Dugan.
Sure, this is a tough item. Terry's been with us for about a year and she's done some good work for the borough. We will, certainly continue to discuss with her and bring counsel into that on the reasons why and, what we can do better, but I understand that she's got potentially exciting next step. And so I would just ask everyone to thank her for her time here and, encourage her to keep in touch.
I do agree with what John said earlier. This is a big loss. It's unfortunate. I know that decisions need to be made in life, but we will miss all the contributions Harry's made to the.
Ditto. We've not always agreed, but certainly respect your professionalism very, very much, Terry. Thank you.
Anything else from council? Move that to consent with no objection. Then bills paid.
I'll take it if you want, Mr. President. Finance Committee reviewed the bills through June 7th. And after having our questions answered, we're happy that they were correct, and I'd be happy to make a motion to approve, to add this to consent. Forgive me.
I was going to accept your motion, just not say it until Wednesday, but
Yeah.
Any objection or questions from Mr. Norris? All right, we will move that to consent. And then the approval of the council meeting minutes from June 5th and 7th will be available on Wednesday for us to take action on. That's the end of the discussion items. Anything else from council members?
I am going to make sure that folks know, especially the group in the middle of the left side, that we are actively trying to figure out the right answer when it comes to your professions and what you do for the community. We're meeting, we are trying to figure out the best thing. As mentioned before, it's a major issue and need and responsibility of the borough. Please know that we're trying to work with our best interest to make sure that we can come out of this with a win-win, that you guys get what you need to cover the community's needs long-term. The borough can afford that long-term as well. That's certainly sincere from the majority, if not every single councilman.
Anything else? Mr. Tafoya, it was a lot to take in. I'm putting you on the spot. Anything else for you tonight?
Well, I'd like to thank council for voting to set me here, and I truly appreciate it. And I'm happy to work with all the constituents here in the borough and to make this a borough very great. And thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager.
Nothing.
All right. Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.
Me too. Thank you.